Lady Silwen Rigwan sits alone at a vast dining table as a brown-haired maid stands nearby.
A sudden wet splash sounds as the maid intentionally pours soup onto Lady Silwen's head.
The two brown-haired maids snicker at their successful act of cruelty.
Lady Silwen stares at her soup-covered hands, questioning the meaning behind the rotten meal.
Lady Silwen glares upward with soup dripping down her face. The maid mockingly demands an apology while claiming her hand simply slipped.
Lady Silwen stands up to confront them, asserting her status as their master's fiancée and condemning their behavior.
The maid smugly suggests Silwen return home while reminding her of the consequences her family would face for defying the king.
The servant looms over Lady Silwen, using the weight of the royal decree to stifle her protest.
Quiet laughter sounds as the maids walk away, leaving the orange-haired woman alone.
Lady Silwen despairs over the misery of her current situation.
Narration explains her background as the youngest daughter of the Lord of Rigwan territory.
She recalls a life of being praised like an angel before a sudden royal decree mandated her engagement.
The king arranged a marriage between the capital's Dilsion house and the border-dwelling Rigwan house. Her fiancé, the head of the Dilsion house, is Lord Aster, who was also her first love.
The story shifts back 10 years to the capital.
A quiet balcony stands as a setting for a childhood memory.
A young orange-haired girl sits weeping on the balcony floor.
The young girl looks up, startled by an approaching presence.
A young blonde Aster reaches out to her, sparking her belief that he was her destined partner. Adult Lady Silwen recalls the joy she felt upon learning the decree was for Lord Aster.
She arrived at the grand estate in a carriage brimming with excitement.
Dark foreboding fills the air as she reflects on what truly awaited her.
Instead of a happy marriage, she faced neglect and unjust treatment in a cold, dusty environment.
The scene shifts to the interior of her isolated and poorly maintained quarters.
A quick tap sounds as the maids announce that her bacon's ready.
Lady Silwen shouts for the servants to release her.
A heavy thud sounds as Lady Silwen is thrown onto the bathroom floor.
Fed up with the servants, she demands they bring Lord Aster to her. She questions why she hasn't seen her husband in 10 days, but the masked maids claim he is too busy to return.
Lady Silwen recognizes their words as a blatant lie.
She reveals that she possesses the literal ability to see when someone is lying. Since her birth, liars have appeared to her as though they are wearing porcelain masks. A sharp click sounds as the maids depart, and Lady Silwen realizes everyone in the mansion is a liar. She notices the bathroom is in a terrible state, covered in grime and cobwebs.
Lady Silwen is horrified to find the bathtub filled with a bubbling, disgusting purple liquid.
She wonders if these maids are truly serving Lord Aster or if there is a massive misunderstanding.
Despite the mistreatment, she holds on to the hope of meeting Lord Aster to clarify the situation. Her heart jumps as she hears the servants outside welcoming Lord Aster home. Shock registers on her face as she realizes he has finally returned to the estate.
A sudden rush sounds as Lady Silwen sprints past the surprised maids to find him. She stops at the doorway, breathless and full of anticipation.
Lord Aster stands in the room, looking strikingly handsome but remarkably cold.
The blonde man offers a chilling, unfriendly look. Lady Silwen gazes at him with wide, hopeful eyes.
Lord Aster greets her coldly, asking why she hasn't fled back to her homeland yet.
Desperate for answers, she asks why she is being mistreated and if there has been a mistake. A sharp thud sounds as Lord Aster roughly shoves Lady Silwen to the floor.
Lady Silwen looks up from the ground, bewildered by his sudden violence.
A harsh snap sounds as Aster glares down at her, calling her a barbarian and ordering her to stay away.
Silwen's wide eyes reflect her utter confusion.
Aster clarifies that he already has a lover, explaining he was forced by the king to marry into the barbarian Rigwan bloodline instead of his commoner sweetheart.
Reeling from the revelation, Silwen questions his words, terrified by the fact that Aster isn't wearing a mask of lies. Walking away from his fiancée, Aster states she will only be his wife in name, as he intends to bear heirs with the woman he truly loves.
Aster reveals that his lover, Aura, lives in the nearby annex visible from her own window. Silwen's face falls as the weight of his rejection sinks in.
She realizes Aura is essentially his mistress, while Aster continues to distance himself from her presence.
Casting a final, disdainful glance back, Aster orders her to remain quietly in her dilapidated quarters.
He walks away, leaving her alone in the empty space.
Devastated, Silwen realizes the man she once adored looks upon her with nothing but pure hatred. Aster's cold voice echoes through the room as he commands the barbarian to stay away from him.
He reaffirms his lack of any romantic intention toward her, leaving Silwen's spirit crushed.
After being shoved aside, Silwen is approached by a brown-haired maid while she struggles to process Aster's cruelty.
All she can do is watch his retreating figure as he abandons her once more.
The sunlight reveals the dismal state of her isolated, dusty bedroom.
A sudden, harsh thud sounds as the maid roughly casts her toward the door. Silwen's heart still aches at the mere thought of her first love. She recalls his hateful expression and the wounding words regarding her barbarian heritage. Silwen trembles as the literal image of a shattered mask reminds her that Aster spoke the absolute truth about his lover. Desperate for help, she follows a maid through the hall and pleads to send a letter to her father. The brown-haired maid refuses her request, coldly instructing her to wait until the wedding is finalized before contacting her family.
Silwen's voice rises in a desperate demand to speak with Aster one more time.
The servant dismisses her, citing the need for decorum and preventing any improper pre-wedding meetings. Bowing with practiced indifference, the maid ignores every one of Silwen's pleas. The two women stand far apart in the sterile grand hallway.
Silence returns to the cold, sparsely furnished room.
Silwen gazes out the window, her mind racing with her new reality. She realizes the grand annex across the grounds is where her rival, Aura, resides.
Something outside catches her attention, causing her to stare in shock.
She watches from above as a small figure moves across the garden path. Silwen observes Aster entering the annex with a bouquet of red roses, realizing he visits his lover multiple times a day. From her window, she watches Aster stand on the high balcony at night, looking back toward her with a glaring gaze. The maid scolds her for being a nuisance to the master. Silwen retorts by asking if the servant also harbors secret feelings for Lord Aster. The maid's face flushes with rage as the restrictions on Silwen's movement become even tighter. Silwen looks up, startled by a sudden noise from above. Aster stands on the balcony, framed against the light. He wears a look of stern resolve as he looks down. Silwen watches him from the shadows of her room. She witnesses Aster smiling tenderly at a blonde woman on the balcony, causing a cold resolve to harden in her eyes. The master remains at his lover's side as the night continues. Silwen continues her vigil from the window, her expression unreadable. She remains silent, trapped in her own thoughts. Her silhouette is framed by the dim light of her quarters. Surrounded by the imagery of sharp thorns, Silwen declares her refusal to be treated like a fool any longer. Glaring with a newfound fire, she vows to exact her revenge on Aster Dilcion. The moon hangs high over the silent estate. The scene shifts to a much more opulent private bedroom. Behind the red curtains, Aster and Aura share a deep, passionate kiss. Shh, Aster whispers as he brings a finger to his lips with a cold, secretive smile. Aura mentions he already has a fiancé, but Aster insists she is the only one he loves. A low, soft sound escapes as Aster reaches out to touch her leg.
Aster asks Aura to please wait for a moment before he leaves.
Aura admits that hearing his confession makes her very happy, though her heart is heavy. She begins to cry, confessing that his upcoming wedding weighs heavily on her mind. Aster looks down with a blush, promising that he understands her pain. With a look of cold resolve, Aster vows to throw his fiancé out immediately. Aster leaves the room, telling Aura to wait for him until his soon return. Aura sits alone on the couch, her face becoming neutral once the Duke departs. A weary sigh sounds as Aura pulls off a long blonde wig. The wig is tossed onto a cushion as the figure remarks that Aster finally gave up and left. Stepping out of the dress, the man notes how easily the Duke fell for his cross-dressing act. The blonde man wipes his mouth, finally dropping the feminine facade. Standing tall, he thinks about how much of a handful Aster truly is. A sharp click sounds as Silwen's green shoe steps onto a narrow window ledge. She carefully climbs out, knowing she must evade the increased surveillance to leave. A brown-haired maid stands guard directly outside Silwen's locked bedroom bar. A soft gulp sounds as Silwen looks down, refusing to stay quiet while being mistreated. She decides that attacking Aster would be useless, as the servants would only blame her. A light thud sounds as her feet touch the ground, and she lets out a relieved pew. Silwen celebrates her successful escape from her quarters with a joyful pose. She looks back at the mansion with a focused and determined expression. She worries that fleeing home would defy the king and bring trouble to her family. Surrounded by imagery of thorns, she resolves to find the lover's weakness to escape her situation. Moving along the garden path, Silwen notes she has tracked their movements for 10 days. A sharp scrape sounds as she grips a stone statue, vowing to deal with the homewrecker.
Silwyn begins to scale the side of the annex wall by climbing the thick vines. Narration describes the Rigwan people as warriors raised to cut down any invading enemies. She remembers herself as a young girl, proud of her heritage and upbringing. She recalls the fierce soldiers of her father's territory, ready to sacrifice themselves.
Younger Silwyn smiles softly, holding on to the warrior spirit of her family. Furious that Aster called her people barbarians, Silwyn vows to make him pay for the insult.
Reaching the railing, she is startled by a figure and gasps as her foot slips.
A terrified cry sounds as Silwyn falls backward into the dark moat.
A firm hand suddenly shoots out and catches Silwyn by the arm.
Aura pulls her up and asks if she understands the danger she just faced.
A sharp gasp sounds as Silwyn is hauled safely over the balcony railing.
Silwyn pants heavily, trying to process her near-death experience.
Aura stands over her, looking down with a seemingly concerned expression.
Aura identifies her as Lady Silwyn and mentions hearing about her marriage to the Duke.
Silwyn starts to introduce herself but stops as her vision shifts.
A small "huh" sounds as Silwyn stares at her rival in utter confusion.
Aura asks what is wrong with her face, unaware that Silwyn sees a mask of lies.
Silwyn is horrified to see a porcelain mask covered in black scribbles over Aura's face.
Aura denies telling any lies and asks why Silwyn would say such a thing.
Aura claims to be worried, but Silwyn knows the mask reveals the depth of her deceit.
Silwyn realizes that Aura's strength and lack of exhaustion prove she is actually a man.
Aura denies the accusation, asking what could possibly be the matter with Silwyn.
Silwyn declares she can see lies and flatly states that Aura is a man.
She threatens him, asking what the Duke would say if he learned about this massive lie.
Silwyn reflects on how spreading rumors among the servants will eventually undermine Aster's trust in his mistress.
Silwyn warns Aura that rumors among the maids will soon reach Aster's ears, and a sharp zip sounds as she reaches out toward her.
Silwyn contrasts her own poor living conditions with Aura's luxury, questioning why the mistress outranks the legal wife.
Silwyn clarifies that she isn't threatening Aura, but delivering a direct order from her new vantage point.
Silwyn stuns Aura by demanding help and making Aster fall in love with her.
Silwyn reveals her plan to make Aster fall for her, only to break his heart and discard him like trash.
Framed by roses, Silwyn reiterates her vow to utterly destroy Aster after winning his affection. Silwyn laments the unfair treatment she receives despite being the Duke's wife by royal decree. Aura recalls that the mistreatment of Silwyn began the moment she arrived at the Dilcion estate.
Aura remembers Aster's plan to use underhanded methods to evict Silwyn while she continues her loud protest in the present.
Silwyn questions why she should bother with a man who treats her like a storage closet and his mistress like a princess.
Silwyn admits that challenging a powerful ducal house directly would only make her look like a common villain.
Silwyn sits dejectedly on the sofa, realizing that formal protests are entirely useless against Aster's high status. With a secretive smile and a finger to her lips, Silwyn declares her intention to toy with Aster once he is smitten.
Silwyn predicts that Aster will eventually grovel in vain, serving him right for his previous cruelty.
Fired up with newfound energy, Silwyn vows to make Aster regret every insult he hurled at her heritage.
Aura watches her silently, processing the sudden intensity of Silwyn's resolve. Aura finds Aster Dilcion's recent behavior to be an increasingly difficult hassle to manage alone.
Aura recalls struggling to fend off Aster's demands for physical intimacy without exposing his true identity.
Realizing Silwyn knows the truth, Aura considers how her ability to see lies could be exploited for his own objectives.
Aura asks what is required of him as Silwyn focuses on the details of their alliance.
Surrounded by blooms, Aura asks for specific instructions on what he needs to do to assist her.
Silwyn makes her first demand, insisting on living in the annex and bathing alongside Aura.
Silwyn refuses to ever use her former filthy bathroom again, and Aura begrudgingly accepts the new arrangement.
Aura settles onto the couch, reflecting on the strange turn of events.
Silwyn knows that her leverage over Aura's secret ensures he cannot do anything improper against her.
Silwyn notes that Aura's commitment to his secret goal makes him a reliable partner who cannot afford to fail.
When Aura tests her with a threat, Silwyn identifies it as a lie by looking at his metaphorical mask.
Aura realizes that keeping Silwyn in his quarters will provide the perfect shield against Aster's unwanted visits.
Aura is relieved that Silwyn's presence will prevent Aster from barging into the bathroom unannounced.
Aura agrees to the terms, though Silwyn reminds him that this is an order rather than a negotiation.
Aura reaches out a hand, accepting the conditions of their shared arrangement with a light slide. Silwen extends her hand, eager to begin their partnership in demeaning Aster.
A weary ha sounds as Aura processes the complexity of his new situation.
Silwen pulls Aura toward her with a determined grip as they finalize their secret pact. Silwen asks for his real name, and the blonde-haired man reveals it is Cade. Silwen observes that Cade lies with effortless ease, almost as naturally as breathing. Silwen dismisses his deception, having fully expected him to maintain his dishonest facade. Silwen beams with confidence, ready to execute her plan for revenge.
Silwen remarks that Aura is quite the character as she stands in the center of the room.
Silwen is eager to start their plan immediately, ignoring Aura's stoic expression.
Night falls over the annex, silence settling into the ornate, red-curtained room. Silwen sleeps peacefully in the grand bed, cocooned by soft blankets and roses. She remains deep in slumber, unaware of the approaching conflict outside her door.
Cade lies awake among the lilies, lost in his own thoughts as the night passes.
Quick, heavy steps sound in the hall as Aster frantically calls out for Aura.
Aster's eyes widen in shock as he discovers Silwen and Aura together in the same bed.
Aster rages at Silwen, ordering the barbarian to get off Aura's bed and stay away from his lover.
A hand reaches out toward the long blonde hair as the tension in the room peaks.
Aura commands Lord Oster to stop, intervening before the Duke's anger can escalate further.
Aura holds Silwen close and assures Oster that she hasn't done anything improper.
Aster stares at the scene with a look of pure bewilderment.
Aura explains she invited Silwen in from the balcony, while Silwen notices Aura's lie-detecting mask.
Aura asks Aster for permission to speak with Silwen privately.
Aster's expression shifts to one of hesitant concern.
Aura further requests to eat breakfast alone with Silwen, leaving Aster visibly shaken. Aster is left speechless by the sudden and unexpected request.
Aura claims to be weary of men and begs for female companionship until Aster finally relents.
Aster looks away in defeat, clutching his hand to his face.
Aster warns Silwen that any harm toward Aura will result in her permanent exile from the frontier.
He threatens to destroy Silwen's home using his royal ties, ordering her to remember her place.
Aster departs as Silwen and Aura remain together in the bedroom. Silwen fumes over Aster's arrogance and his threat to use her people as hostages.
Aura suggests Aster was being truthful, asking Silwen how the Duke appears to her unique vision.
Silwen realizes Aster wore no mask of lies even while hurling insults at her. Aura observes that Silwen is adapting to her new circumstances with remarkable speed.
Silwen admits she has never revealed the truth about her power to anyone, including her family.
Aura jokingly credits Silwen's wall-climbing skills for her quick mental adjustment.
Aura identifies Silwen's claim about her family as a blatant lie. Aura ponders whether Silwen's parents simply chose to ignore their daughter's abnormal ability.
Silwen questions her partner's assessment as she sits on the edge of the bed.
Aura reflects on how people often choose comfort over difficult truths.
Silwen remains silent, processing the insight into her past.
A moment of quiet settles between the two women.
Silwen asks to borrow clothes, and Aura grants her access to the closet.
A sharp click sounds as Silwen opens the closet, eager to change out of her dusty garments.
Silwen is appalled by the messy closet, while Aura invites her to choose any dress.
Silwen suddenly wonders how Aura manages to change clothes without assistance.
Aura explains she has no maid due to a dislike of being touched and asks for privacy. Aura is flustered by the idea of changing in front of others despite Silwen's mountain climbing antics.
Silwen checks Aura's schedule for the following day with a determined look.
She excitedly declares that their next destination will be the royal capital's library.
The scene shifts to the grand, imposing exterior of the estate.
A horse-drawn carriage travels down the sunlit road toward the capital. A quick click sounds as the carriage door is opened from the outside.
An attendant extends his hand to help the passengers disembark.
A soft step sounds as a polite expression of thanks is offered to the attendant.
Aura accepts the attendant's assistance while stepping gracefully onto the ground.
A heavy silence falls as two guards stand at attention, maintaining a strict watch.
Aura startles the guards by insisting on entering first with Lady Silwen by her side.
The two women join hands as they prepare to explore the library together.
Aura and Silwen walk toward the entrance, both appearing lighthearted and cheerful.
The Royal Library stands as a towering monument of architectural grandeur.
Ornate stone pillars and high-arched windows define the library's impressive facade.
Sunlight filters through the massive windows of the quiet, vaulted interior.
Aura observes the massive scale of the library as a quick tap sounds on the floor.
Aura asks her companion where she would like to begin their search. A rapid tap-tap sounds as Silwen spots a floor guide and rushes toward it. Silwen points out their first objective with a bright and confident smile.
The library is filled with patrons and scholars navigating the endless rows of books.
Silwen notices Aura is distracted and checks if she is actually paying attention to the conversation. Returning to her point, Silwen begins to explain Aster's true objective once again.
She reveals that Aster intends to bring both his wife and his mistress to an upcoming royal evening party.
Silwen predicts that Aster will attempt to humiliate her by showering Aura with expensive gifts while leaving her with nothing.
Aura listens intently, processing the details of Aster's likely plan to stir up drama.
Surrounded by blossoms, Silwen declares her intention to outshine everyone and make Aster fall hopelessly for her charms.
She excitedly presents a notebook filled with fashion observations, demonstrating her thorough preparation for the event.
Aura is genuinely impressed by how clearly Silwen has organized her research on current trends.
A sharp click sounds as the notebook is snapped shut, signaling the end of their initial planning phase.
Aura offers to have a professional tailor create a custom dress for Silwen to ensure she looks her best.
Silwen declines the offer, announcing her plan to borrow an existing dress and customize it with her own hands.
Silwen enthusiastically retrieves the sewing kit while Aura watches her prepare for the task ahead.
Silwen is surprised to find that the kit contains specialized scissors for both right-handed and left-handed users. Aura explains her preference for using her left hand when handling blades, though she remains proficient with her right. Silwen notes that Aster and the household staff remain completely oblivious to Aura's secret habits and natural inclinations. Silwen selects a navy dress for her project, warning Aura that the garment will be permanently altered. When questioned about her skills, Silwen explains that her refusal to compromise on her appearance motivated her to learn sewing. A look of intense resolve crosses Silwen's face as she prepares to begin the difficult work ahead. Silwen admits she is only tolerating the current situation because she must, fueling her desire to eventually overcome her rivals.
She vows to transform her current frustrations into a definitive victory that will leave her enemies silenced.
Aura watches her partner with a neutral expression, recognizing the fire driving Silwen's ambition. As the work begins, Aura notes the tight deadline, and Silwen promises to finish the dress before the party.
Silwen rants about the unacceptability of being caught without a dress, finding the very idea of Astra's mockery infuriating.
Aura observes Silwen's frantic energy, feeling slightly overwhelmed by the intensity of her partner's dedication.
Lost in her own thoughts, Aura considers her own secret objectives for the upcoming royal gathering. Breaking the silence, Aura calls out to Silwen to grab her attention once more. Framed by dark roses, Aura offers to coach Silwen on the specific art of seducing and inviting Aster. Silwen looks up from her work, questioning the sudden and unexpected nature of Aura's offer. Aura explains that Aster will be a significant hindrance at the party and she needs Silwen to keep him fully occupied. Realizing they both have goals to achieve, Aura asks for Silwen's cooperation in their shared scheme.
Silwen agrees to help provided she can continue working on her dress while they discuss the details.
Aura grants her permission, noting that the lessons don't require any specific physical exertion from Silwen.
A soft tap sounds as Aura leans against a chair, ready to begin her instruction on social manipulation.
Aura critiques Silwen's current mannerisms, suggesting that her high energy might actually repel a man like Aster.
Demonstrating a more seductive approach, Aura suggests that Silwen adopt a breathier, more relaxed way of speaking. Silwen and Aura discuss Aster's questionable tastes, concluding that he is indeed attracted to a very specific type of persona. Aura explains that acting more seductive and obedient is the key to capturing and holding Aster's fickle attention. Silwen realizes that her task is simply to mimic the mistress persona that Aura usually portrays in public. Preparing to test her new skills, Silwen takes a deep breath and begins to practice her delivery.
Amidst a backdrop of roses, Silwen delivers a practiced invitation for a walk, perfectly capturing the required tone.
Aura watches the performance with a discerning eye, evaluating her student's progress.
Impressed by the transformation, Aura praises Silwen for her remarkable ability to pick up new traits quickly.
Silwen beams with confidence, boasting that there is absolutely nothing she cannot master when she sets her mind to it.
Aura jokingly remarks that with just a bit more practice, Silwen would make for an exceptionally dangerous con artist.
5 days pass in a blur of preparation until the night of the royal party finally arrives at the Grand Mansion. A sharp thud sounds as a foot in a white heel steps onto the ornate tiles of the entrance hall. Lord Aster is shown in profile, a confident smile playing on his lips as he waits for his guests.
Aster greets the two women as they arrive, with both Silwyn and Aura looking stunning in their formal attire.
The scene shifts back to the exterior of the brightly lit estate as the formal proceedings are about to begin.
Silwyn and Aura stand together in the grand hall, united and ready to execute their plan under the watchful eyes of the court.
Silwyn notes that tonight's dinner with Aster is a dress rehearsal for an upcoming evening party.
Silwyn closes her eyes and takes a moment to mentally prepare herself.
Silwyn resolves to use her mind rather than physical violence to win this fight.
As she walks down the hallway with Aura, Silwyn reflects that she no longer has any doubts. A confident and serene smile spreads across Silwyn's face.
Silwyn reaches out to catch Aura's attention as they approach the dining room.
Aura announces their arrival, while Silwyn finds her own formal behavior unusual and clears her throat.
Silwyn looks determined and alert as she prepares to face her fiancé.
The group makes their way onto the decorative tiled floor of the grand hall. The story's title screen appears in vibrant red and purple text framed by a rose. Aster sits at the head of a long, lavishly set table as the two women enter the room. Silwyn offers a graceful bow while thanking Aster for inviting them.
Aster dismissively tells the two women to take their seats.
Silwyn strategically plans for Aura to sit on the right while she takes the seat on the left. The two women share a secret, warm smile as they carry out their plan.
Aster stares at them with a bewildered and suspicious expression.
The two women take their seats, sitting in the opposite positions from what Aster expected. Aster jumps up in a frantic rage, shouting that they are sitting in the wrong places. Aster's face contorts with anger and frustration as he glares at his guests.
Silwyn notes that they swapped seats because her dominant hand is her right and Aura's is her list.
Silwyn explains that the new seating prevents them from bumping into each other and asks Aura for confirmation. Aura calmly confirms that she is indeed left-handed, while Aster looks on nervously.
Looking at her soup, Silwyn suspects her dish was tampered with since the food was served before they arrived.
Judging by Aster's panicked reaction, Silwyn is certain of her suspicion and mockingly asks if there is a problem. Aster frantically orders a servant to switch Aura's dish with a different one.
Silwyn playfully asks if something is wrong with the food that was originally intended for Aura.
Aster defensively claims the food only got cold because they were late to dinner. Aster announces a royal party in 5 days, noting that a decree forces him to bring Silwyn despite their nominal engagement.
Aster insults Silwyn, claiming she lacks knowledge of the capital and high society.
Aster asks Aura if she would be willing to accompany Silwyn to the royal event. Aura politely accepts the request to accompany her partner.
Silwyn beams with joy, expressing how happy she is to attend the party with Aura.
Aster is visibly stunned by Silwyn's enthusiastic and unexpected reaction. Aura smiles back at Silwyn, stating that she is also delighted by the arrangement. Aster clears his throat as he tries to regain his composure after the exchange. Aster mentions he is tailoring a dress for Aura, but claims it is impossible to prepare one for Silwyn on such short notice. Silwyn realizes that bringing both a fiancé and a lover to the party will make them the laughingstock of society. Silwyn tells Aura she is counting on her as they share a knowing glance. The two women share a lighthearted and mocking laugh together. Aster watches them with a look of pure, simmering annoyance. Silwyn stands gracefully among blooming roses, looking every bit the noble lady. 5 days pass as the night of the royal evening party finally arrives. The scene shifts to the bustling entrance of the grand gala under the night sky. Elegant guests in colorful attire fill the brightly lit ballroom. Aster prepares to enter the party, calling for Silwyn to follow him. Aster offers his arm for Silwyn to take as they prepare their entrance.
Silwyn reveals a breathtaking new blue and black gown with her hair adorned with pearls.
A carriage rumbles quickly toward the royal palace as the night deepens. Inside the carriage, Silwyn reflects that she had hoped to face this day with a clear mind. Silwyn notes that Aster's unsettling silence and constant staring suggest he is deeply impressed by her appearance. Silwyn smiles confidently while leaning on Aster's arm. Traveling in the carriage, Silwyn dismisses unimportant matters, focusing on her plan to meet influential ducal families at tonight's party. The scene shifts to the brightly lit capital at night, where noblewomen chat behind their fans. Aster leads Silwyn through the ballroom while Aura follows closely behind. A stunned nobleman stops in his tracks. Guests whisper in awe about Silwyn being the future wife of House Dilcion while marveling at her truly gorgeous dress.
Silwyn internally celebrates as she realizes her prediction about the guests' reactions was spot on.
A sudden, sharp click of heels sounds as a woman in a red dress approaches.
Silwyn turns her head to look.
A blonde woman in a white mask and red dress stands framed by blossoms. A bystander identifies the woman as the wife of Duke Malvarda, warning others not to offend her.
Silwyn recognizes the name Duke Malvarda, noting that even someone raised in the frontier like her knows that powerful name.
She reflects on how rare it is to find people without masks at these evening parties.
Silwyn offers a polite, practiced smile.
Lady Malvarda notes it has been a while since she last saw Duke Dilcion, and Aster politely acknowledges the lady in return.
Lady Malvarda praises the lovely dress, claiming it made her heart flutter like when she met her husband, and remarks that Duke Dilcion is fortunate to have such a bride. Silwyn senses a double meaning, realizing the lady is fully aware of Aster's mistress standing right there.
Lady Malvarda asks to borrow the future wife for a moment of conversation.
As she lowers her fan, Silwyn spots 2 small marks on the woman's neck and reacts with quiet surprise.
Aster looks on with a neutral expression.
Aster asks Lady Malvarda to guide his wife, explaining that she needs to get accustomed to life in the capital.
Silwyn realizes that Aster choosing to stand next to his mistress at this exact moment was a terrible social move on his part.
Aster leads Aura away through the cod.
Silwyn politely explains that she is only here because her marriage was a direct command from the king.
She adds that as someone carrying the blood of Rigwan, which protects the country, she is happy to serve.
Lady Malvarda smiles behind her mask. The lady admits she originally thought Silwyn was just an unfortunate girl, but is now impressed by how composed she is.
Silwyn offers a respectful, graceful bow.
Lady Malvarda mentions that her husband actually attended the council where Silwyn's marriage was decided.
The 2 women talk amidst the party. Lady Malvarda points out her husband's location.
She explains that her husband is currently in a serious discussion with the royal family and cannot come greet them.
Silwyn maintains her polite and cheerful expression. Lady Malvarda invites Silwyn to come have tea at her estate, noting they cannot talk at leisure in such a crowded place. Silwyn accepts the invitation with a bright smile, telling the lady she would love to be invited.
The noblewoman gestures toward her guest. Lady Malvarda excuses herself, suggesting they talk again soon.
A group of young ladies approaches Silwyn. Silwyn turns back toward the new arrivals. The noblewomen crowd around Silwyn, praising her stunning dress and begging for a moment of her time. Silwyn looks surprised by the sudden attention.
She looks back toward her partners.
Silwyn notes that Aura had objectives for the party, but seems to be having trouble shaking Aster off. Silwyn keeps up her cheerful appearance. Aster mockingly asks Silwyn why she is back so quickly, wondering if the setting was too far above her station. Adopting a seductive tone, Silwyn asks Lord Aster if he would be kind enough to lend her his hand. Aster is visibly shocked by Silwyn's sudden change in attitude.
The 3 of them stand together.
Aura mentions she has spotted someone she knows.
Hiding behind her fan, Aura asks if Aster would mind if she went to speak with her acquaintance.
Silwyn realizes that other women would surely fall for Aster if they saw him up close.
Clicking his tongue in annoyance, Aster abruptly commands Silwyn to follow him as they leave.
Aura offers a silent thanks to Silwyn while Aster leads his wife away. Aster and Silwyn walk down a long, dimly lit hallway away from the party. Enjoying the quiet balcony, Silwyn remarks on the wonderful breeze while Aster watches her with a scowl.
A look of cold, piercing fury burns in Aster's blue eyes as he glares at her.
Clenching his fist, Aster struggles with his intense irritation and the fact that Silwyn reminds him of Aura. Silwyn turns to face Aster with a polite and unsuspecting smile.
A soft glow surrounds Silwyn as she offers Aster a gentle, practiced expression.
Seething with jealousy over Aura's affection for Silwyn, Aster demands that she stop smiling. Overwhelmed by his own perceived sacrifices, Aster suddenly lunges and seizes Silwyn with a tight grip.
Aster violently pins Silwyn to the floor as she gasps in total shock. Aster vows to teach her the pain of a royal marriage while mocking her disgusted expression.
Silwyn lies paralyzed and traumatized on the ground following the sudden assault.
A sharp gasp sounds as Silwyn desperately asks Aster what he thinks he is doing. Aster cruelly laughs, claiming even a barbarian's daughter looks decent when making a face of pure disgust.
The weight of the traumatic encounter leaves Silwyn staring blankly at the floor.
Aster looks down at his victim with a cold, predatory smirk playing on his lips.
Silwyn begs him to stop, but Aster mocks her tears and claims her dress was a provocation.
Aster covers Silwyn's face with his hand, accusing her of wanting this to happen. A sharp click sounds as a heel strikes the floor, drawing Aster's startled attention.
Aura stands at the balcony entrance, looking down at the pair with a shadow over her face. Aura demands an explanation for Aster's behavior with a cold and steady voice. A tense silence fills the air as Aura clenches the fabric of her dress.
Aura asks Lord Aster why he would do such a thing.
Panicking, Aster stands up and immediately lies, claiming Silwyn was the one who approached him.
A loud thud sounds as Aura shoves past the man to reach her partner. Aura immediately shields the shivering Silwyn with her own cloak to cover her torn dress.
Silwyn stares ahead in a state of deep, silent shock.
Aura looks back at Aster with a gaze filled with absolute loathing.
Looking down at Silwyn, Aura softly expresses her gratitude for her earlier kindness.
Aura admits she respected Silwyn's character, but draws a final line after witnessing Aster's actions.
Fixating on Aster with cold fury, Aura declares that she will hate him forever.
Aura supports the shaken Silwyn as they walk together toward a waiting carriage.
Once inside the carriage, Silwyn questions why Aura abandoned her important business to save her. Silwyn remains pale and visibly trembling from the night's horrific events.
Aura reassures Silwyn that they are safe in a public carriage where no one from House Stilcian can interfere.
A soft plip sounds as a solitary tear finally falls from Silwyn's eye.
Silwyn breaks down into frantic sobs, mourning the special night that was ruined by Aster's cruelty. Aura pulls the weeping Silwyn into a warm, protective embrace. The grand estate stands silent and dark under the moonlit sky. Aura leads the exhausted Silwyn through a secluded path away from prying highs.
A soft splash sounds as Aura helps Silwyn wash away the trauma in a hot bath.
Aura gently tends to Silwyn's back as they sit together in the steaming bathroom. Silwyn looks down into the water with a somber and reflective expression.
Silwyn reveals that she finally met the people who might be responsible for her family's death.
A look of quiet determination and pain crosses Silwyn's face during her reflection.
Aura explains that she spoke with the suspects at length but learned nothing of value.
Realizing the party wasn't enough, Aura resolves to infiltrate their estate to uncover the truth.
The chapter concludes with various notices regarding series commissions and recruitment for the scanning team.
Aura sits quietly by the tub as a soft splash sounds. Aura asks Silwyn what she means by her family being killed. The two women sit together in the steaming bathroom. Silwyn explains that by her family, she meant everyone in her village. Clenching her hand to her chest, Silwyn feels the weight of the past. Silwyn recalls returning from playing to find her entire village wiped from the map. Aura reaches out to comfort Silwyn as they talk.
Silwyn looks toward the window while Aura prepares to leave.
Aura maintains a calm and stoic expression. Silwyn looks at her partner with wide and wondering eyes. Aura's expression remains unreadable as she reflects. A ghostly mask looms over Silwyn's memory as she watches why. Silwyn wonders what kind of expression Aura is making. The scene shifts to the dark estate and its wine cellar. A loud smash sounds as a wine bottle shatters against the floor. Seething with rage, Aster blames Silwyn for Aura's hatred toward him.
Aster reflects on how he was in the wrong during the confrontation.
Despite his guilt, Aster remains convinced that Silwyn deserved to be punished.
A startled maid enters the room to find the disheveled Lord Aster.
Aster realizes that if the maid hadn't freed Silwyn, none of this would have happened.
A dull thud sounds as Aster violently knocks the maid to the floor.
Overwhelmed by delusion, Aster pins the woman down while calling out for Aura. The maid desperately screams for Lord Aster to stop as dark roses bloom. Morning light bathes the grand estate in a peaceful glow. A soft breeze sounds as Silwyn runs toward a pond in the garden. A quick plip-plop sounds as a stone skips across the wire. Silwyn turns to see Aura watching her from the sidelines.
Silwyn looks down at her simple, ruffled cream dress.
Silwyn gazes off into the distance with a troubled expression.
20 days have passed, and Aura reflects on how Aster has been avoiding them.
Although Silwyn appears normal, she has avoided wearing cool colors since the party. Silwyn's inner thoughts reveal a simmering desire to kill Aster despite needing him. Aura rubs her eyes, exhausted by the lingering trauma of that night. Aura recalls the moment Silwyn's scream interrupted her search for proof. Despite her goal for revenge, Aura couldn't stop herself from running to save Silwyn.
Aura resolves to stop herself from getting any more involved with her partner.
Silwyn watches the garden with a silent and heavy heart.
Silwyn offers a faint and gentle smile to the sunlight.
Aura watches Silwyn with a sharp and calculating gaze.
The two women sit together in the garden, lost in their own thoughts.
Silwyn looks up, curious about the sudden shift in atmosphere.
Aura promises to return immediately if anyone happens to come by.
Silwyn watches her go with a look of mild surprise. Aura approaches the heavy iron gates of the estate.
A red-haired man in a dark hood greets Aura through the bars.
Aura coldly asks the man, Igor, what he wants from her.
Igor whispers a secret that makes Aura's eyes sharpen with intent.
Aura notes that the new faction is finally seizing control from the old.
Aura realizes that her marriage will soon lose all its meaning.
Igor stares back with an intense and expectant expression.
Behind the estate's iron bars, Aura gives Igor a final instruction to pass along a message to Darius.
Aura reflects that the Rigwan girl has potential and suggests Darius act quickly before her marriage to House Dilcian is finalized.
She notes that despite being the youngest, Silwyn belongs to House Rigwan, a lineage known for their beast-like strength. Igor smirks as he observes that staying in this house is nothing but a waste for a woman like her. The hooded man stands outside the gate while Aura remains inside, watching him from a distance. A quick, sharp tap sounds as Igor turns his back on the estate and disappears into the forest. A soft, rhythmic rustle sounds as Aura stands alone in the garden, feeling a sudden, chilling unease. Realizing something is wrong, Aura desperately calls out Silwyn's name as she runs toward the estate's central pond.
Searching the lush greenery, she wonders where her partner could have gone. Aura's voice carries a tone of frantic urgency as she continues her search for Silwyn.
A light tap sounds as Aura's eyes widen in horror, spotting a scrap of fabric floating on the water surface.
Aura screams for Silwyn as bubbles rise from the deep, still pond.
Silwyn drifts listlessly through the blue water, her long hair fanning out as she sinks.
A loud, echoing splash sounds as Aura dives headfirst into the water to rescue the drowning girl.
A soft, muffled gurgle sounds while Aura swims downward, her hand reaching out for the unconscious Silwyn.
Struggling against the current, Aura realizes with frustration that her heavy dress is hindering her movements. The two women are submerged together in the silent blue depths of the pond. A sudden, powerful splash sounds as Lord Oster pulls the soaked Silwyn from the water while shouting her name. Aster cradles her body, noting a severe head wound that suggests foul play and fearing it is too late for a doctor. Blood streams down Silwyn's face as she lies pale and unmoving in the grass. Aster begs her not to die, declaring that she cannot rest until she achieves her vengeance against the man who harmed her. Tears fall from Aster's golden eyes as he questions if her desire for revenge will keep her spirit tethered. The garden stands silent as Aster holds the dying girl, blood staining the stone steps beside the pond.
Aster looks up with an expression of pure, sweating desperation.
Leaning in close, Aster whispers a final apology to the woman in his arms.
Baring his fangs, a sharp rip sounds as Aster bites down on Silwyn's skin to initiate a forbidden revival.
Aster continues the transformation, his expression hidden as he links their lives together.
A blinding light fills the scene as the ritual nears completion. A divine glow surrounds the pair as the life-saving, soul-altering act reaches its peak. The morning sun illuminates an empty, lavish bedroom within the grand estate.
Silwyn lies peacefully in bed, her orange hair spread across the white pillows.
Silwyn's eyes slowly flutter open as she returns to consciousness.
She blinks in confusion, the world appearing different to her than it did before.
A heavy, dull thump sounds as Silwyn sits up, amazed that she can see the colors and outlines of the world with impossible clarity.
A calm voice from the shadows asks her if she is finally awake.
Silwyn looks toward the speaker with a dazed and wondering expression.
Silwyn calls out Aurora's name as she sees her partner standing nearby in a simple green dress. Silwyn remembers parting ways with Aura at the spring before everything went dark. She recalls the sensation of someone standing behind her just before she tried to turn around. The memory of the garden encounter flashes through her mind, tinted in the golden hues of late afternoon. Touching her head, Silwyn concludes that she was struck and fell into the spring. A voice coldly confirms her suspicion, adding the terrifying detail that she actually died. Silwyn stares at her partner in utter shock and disbelief. Aura wears a ghostly porcelain mask and notes that the lines on Silwyn's own mask are no longer increasing. Silwyn asks Aura if she was the one who pulled her from the water and saved her life. Aura sits quietly by the bedside as the two women discuss the events of the previous night.
Aura admits she wishes she had saved her, but confesses she didn't make it to the spring in time. Looking down at the memory of Silwyn's sinking form, Aura explains that Silwyn was already dead when she arrived, so she brought her back. The weight of the revelation leaves Silwyn pale and speechless. Aura explains that she had a demon make Silwyn sell her soul to ensure her return to the living.
Silwyn stares ahead in complete shock.
Showing a book, Aura explains that a vampire story they once heard has actually happened to Silwyn. Aura describes how a grieving vampire performed a forbidden ritual called a love contract to save a dying human. Silwyn asks if she is now a vampire and if Aura used that contract to bring her back. Aura gazes back with a somber expression. Aura clarifies that a vampire can turn a human by drinking blood from near the heart, just like the story. Aura notes that there is more to the contract than just the transformation.
Silwyn listens intently to the explanation.
Aura explains that neither can break the contract and they must now drink each other's blood to survive or they will both suffer.
Silwyn's eyes widen at the revolution. Aura remains silent and deeply reflective. Silwyn realizes Aura is a vampire, recalling how she easily held her with one hand during their first meeting on the balcony.
A tight grip sounds as Silwyn clenches the breastplates.
A soft rustle sounds as Aura looks on with concern.
A sudden grab sounds as Silwyn seizes Aura's hands.
Aura reacts with a look of surprise.
Leaning in close, Silwyn tells Aura to stop brooding over the situation. A loud thump sounds as Silwyn stomps on the bed.
Silwyn enthusiastically accepts her new state, noting that gaining power is a fair trade for having a fiancé like Aster.
Silwyn clutches her chest with determination. Silwyn recalls how being unable to fight back tormented her and how she changed her clothing style after Aster's insults. She admits that part of her wondered if she had actually done something wrong, despite knowing it wasn't true. Silwyn shouts that the blame for the attack lies entirely with Aster and it was never a fair fight. She declares that she did nothing wrong and will no longer torment herself over the incident. Aura watches Silwyn stand up. Silwyn offers a bright and cheerful smile.
Aura smiles back with gentle warmth.
Chibi Silwyn fumes as she vows to tear Aster apart if he ever tries anything again.
Silwyn asks if Aura also needs her blood to live now that the contract is active. Silwyn reaches out her hand confidently. Aura looks on with a soft smile. The two women shake hands together. Aura observes a hooded figure from afar.
Aura identifies the person as the one who attacked Lady Silwyn.
Sunlight bathes the grand white estate. Silwyn smiles in her new bleak dress. Aura enjoys tea in a red dress. Aura notes Silwyn's persistence with her hobby, while Silwyn expresses her love for the delicate dress she is sewing. A sharp snap sounds as Silwyn accidentally breaks her needle under Aura's watchful gaze. Silwyn observes that despite Aura saying former humans are weaker, her Rigwan lineage has made her exceptionally strong as a vampire. A quick whish sounds as Silwyn punches the air, claiming she has learned to control her strength by sacrificing needles. Aura watches her partner with fondness. Aura reflects that she investigated the attack and discovered the maid who served Silwyn was the actual culprit. The maid looks on in terror. Aura reveals the maid confessed that Aster assaulted her in Silwyn's place, ruining her body and driving her to seek revenge. Aura explains that she sent the maid away under Igor's watch to keep the resurrection a secret while the true culprit, Aster, remains free. Aura clenches the fabric of her gus. Aura notes that since the maid left, Aster feels guilty and is looking for an opportunity to apologize to them. Aura worries about how Aster will react to rejection and reflects that an apology cannot erase the memory of what was lost. Silwyn looks back with a curious expression. Silwyn asks Aura what is wrong and warns her that biting her lip so hard will cause it to split. Surprised, Aura asks if Silwyn can see her mouth through the mask. Silwyn explains that Aura's mask broke away from the nose down when she revealed her vampire identity, though the childish scribbles remain. Aura looks away in silent, deep thought. Noticing the clock, Silwyn exclaims that she must leave immediately.
Aura asks if she is heading to Duke Malvarda's estate.
Silwyn confirms her tea invitation and playfully chides Aura for not listening to her earlier explanations. Aura offers to walk Silwyn downstairs as they leave the room. The door opens as they begin to make their way out. Footsteps echo as someone approaches them in the hallway. Both of their names are called out from a distance. The two women turn to see who is calling for them. Lord Aster appears and requests a moment of their time.
Aura steps slightly at Enverkarger.
Silwyn remains remarkably calm and unbothered by his presence.
Aura watches Silwyn with a look of quiet apprehension.
Silwyn faces the man in the bright hallway. Silwyn explains that she is currently on her way to Duke Malvarda's mistake.
Silwyn continues to describe her upcoming appointment.
Aster desperately declares that he knows, but he wants to apologize to both of them and asks if they can spare some time.
Silwyn gazes at him with a composed and knowing expression. The group stands together in the sunlit corridor. Silwyn politely rejects the request, stating she will not be able to make time for him right away. Aster looks stunned and deeply distressed by her refusal.
Silwyn dismissively turns her back and walks away. Aura follows after her as Aster calls out Silwyn's name in frustration.
Aura leans in and reminds Silwyn that her feedings are already overdue.
Silwyn reacts to the secret reminder with a bright smile. Aura looks back with a serious gaze and tells her to be careful. The massive gray stone estate stands silent and grand.